We set standards and goals for ourselves and make promises all the time. And when you don't fulfill it, and when you break that promise to yourself, it feels terrible. It actually makes you stop trusting yourself as much, one broken promise at a time. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how you can rebuild that trust within yourself. And it doesn't come from just upholding your promises. This episode is not about perfection. It's not about how do you never break a promise to yourself. The way to really heal is getting honest with what happened, because often there's something underneath that broken promise that's the root cause, and we're going to get after it today. Let's dive in.
1, 2, whoo!
Welcome to Authenticity Lab. This is season 2, where we reconnect with our authentic selves so that we can thrive in uncertainty. I'm Dr. Kelsey Miles. I'm a musician, a songwriter, and also a chemistry professor. I use science and music to understand my world within and the world around me. In this podcast, we use my Calibrate experiment optimized framework. And when I apply it to my own life, it allows me to take a step back from what's actually happening so that I can really be my truest self. This month, we're focusing on calibration, and we're looking at my song Shadow, which is all about the parts of ourselves we usually hide. And today, we're talking about promises we've made to ourselves that we've broken. I thought I'd share a story about a time in my life when I was a full-time musician and I was playing a lot of shows. Typically, they were bars or restaurants, and I would work pretty late at night. When I play shows, I can't really eat a lot before I play a show because if I've got a full stomach, I can't sing as well or play harmonica. I just feel a little dragged down, a food coma. And so what would happen is I'd often eat maybe around noon or 2 o'clock, and then I'd play a show at maybe 8 or 9 p.m. at night. By the end of the show, I was hangry, really, really starving. And so after I packed up and I would be either driving to my campsite or often I'd sleep in my car, I would go to the gas station and get my dinner. And this was when I was in Wisconsin. So if you're aware of the Quick Trips in Wisconsin, they have hot and ready food. You know how they say, don't go grocery shopping if you're hungry? Well, don't go into a gas station trying to get food when you're absolutely starving, because the options are pretty limited as far as healthy options. So, of course, when you're really hungry, a slice of pizza and a corn dog or whatever, like the hamburgers or chicken sandwiches that they have there, that's what I'm going to grab. And I would eat my dinner so late at night, and then I'd be so full because I've just consumed all this food. I kept doing that and I started gaining weight and I wasn't feeling good because I didn't sleep as well, because you're not supposed to eat a full meal right before you go to bed. And I felt really stuck because I couldn't really have healthy habits. So I made a promise to myself and I said, I'm going to start eating healthy. And the problem with that promise was I didn't really have a system in place. I tried a few times to meal prep and bring healthy food with me, but after a show, the last thing I wanted to do was eat some hard-boiled eggs and cold chicken. I really wanted something that was more comforting. And so this kept happening where I told myself I was going to eat healthy, and then at the end of the show, I was like, screw it. I just want a piece of pizza and a hamburger. And every time I did that, at the end of the night, I would finish eating and then I would have to go to bed, late at night, and I would feel terrible. Maybe because it was gas station food, but also because I kept promising myself I would take care of myself better. And then I didn't. And then another show would happen and I wouldn't take care of myself how I had hoped to. Now, I could shift this episode into what I learned later on about ADHD and how that makes it really difficult to make healthy choices and how impulsive I am. But the truth of all of this is that I made promises and I didn't keep them. And what happened was not so much that I broke my promise of eating healthy, but that I felt shame every time that I did that. Not only did I feel shame for breaking the promise, but then when I didn't have that much energy the next day, or as I started to gain weight and didn't like how I looked or felt, then I felt more shame. So not only did I feel terrible, but then I made myself feel worse by feeling shame for the promises that I kept breaking. Eventually, this shame started to take over. I started to change how I viewed myself. And it lowered my confidence. It made me judge myself and all the choices I was making. And it started to kind of avalanche some. I don't know if you've ever felt that, where one broken promise to yourself starts to turn into other ways in which you stop taking care of yourself and upholding the promise you made. Part of me hoped that if I kept being hard on myself, that then I would uphold my promise that I wanted to eat healthier. And that didn't really work, that self-punishment, although it might help me one evening after a gig and I would make sure I brought food that night or something so I would have a healthy meal. It never lasted. I would go right back to my eating that gas station food and feeling like complete garbage. So instead of adjusting, I used more shame, and maybe you can relate. I doubled down on the shame and I started to actually lose some weight by really being disgusted with how I was treating myself. I got to the healthiest weight I had been at. And it was during COVID that I started doing that, where I just really hyper focused on how much I was eating, counting all my calories, walking a lot. But the place from which I was doing that was not from a healthy place. It was because I kind of hated myself. And so even though I lost weight, not surprisingly, I gained it all back. In fact, right now, I'm probably at my heaviest weight. And it really that really does a number on you. When you do hit your goal, you start keeping the promises you used to break, but you're doing it from the wrong intention. When I used shame to get there, I kind of hoped then shame would take a back seat, but that didn't happen. Instead, shame was like, oh, I'm useful, I'm going to hang around. And so, although I still have that weight that I gained back, I am happy and I love myself. I'm the happiest I've been. I eat real food. I still take care of myself. I work out. I get sleep. And here's the cool part. By looking at what's underneath the broken promise, that shame that sometimes bubbles up, I uncovered more trust for myself. And so I'm sitting here in this podcast telling you that I am not fully happy with where I'm at with my weight. However, I am very happy. Does that make sense? Where you can know that you want to improve on something without judging yourself to get there. It's a new concept for me. And I want to leave you with one more thing. Every time that I broke my promise of eating healthy after a gig, I was quick to want to hide it. In that I didn't want to spend time on it. I wanted to immediately have an excuse for myself. And boy, did I come up with the best excuses. I would say things like, well, I just didn't have time to meal prep. Or I am just doing this tonight. And tomorrow will be a different story. The problem with this is when we hide it. These are our shadows. When we hide it, the things that bubble up from underneath it are very subconscious and they start to eat away at you. This brings me to share some lyrics from my song Shadow. You don't have to hide. You judge yourself and you do it again until you realize darkness leads you to the light.
You don't have to hide. judge yourself and you do it again until you realize darkness leads you to the light.
You see, I judged myself over and over again for breaking my promises. And I kept doing it until I realized that that darkness I was feeling is what allowed me to feel the light. The darkness of that shame, really looking at it, allowed me to feel happier even when I'm in a situation where I don't quite want to be in. Before, when I kept breaking my promise and I kept eating, out late and I didn't feel good, it was this like double duty of feeling worse. I didn't feel good because of the food and then I shamed myself. But how can we not feel great in the moment, know we need to change something, and then also love ourselves enough to trust that we will? That's the key. That's the key. And the whole idea is that then you get to enjoy the journey. You get to enjoy the moments in which then you reach that. I feel like this is a much healthier way to go about it because I'll tell you what, it wasn't that fun when I lost the weight before. Getting to the weight that I wanted to was great, but I couldn't keep that goal because it required me to keep shaming myself to make sure I didn't overeat. It's not a fun thing to be sitting in a war zone internally with yourself. Sure, maybe you've reached a goal and externally it looks like you're fine, but waging a war internally sucks. And so I'd much rather be at a weight that I know that I can lose some extra pounds, but I'm really happy with my life. And I've never lost weight from this place. So I'm excited. Maybe in a future episode, I can share how it worked. All right, it's time for your calibration moment. What is a promise that you have made to yourself that you've broken? It might be helpful to start with any promise, whether it's deciding you're going to wake up early or you're going to make sure you send thank you notes. Whatever the promise was that you tried to set and you didn't keep it for yourself, name it. We're shining a light on it. Now I want you to think about, how did it feel when you broke that promise? Really get clear about this. Underneath the bad feeling you have, there's some other things that will come up. For me, I had thoughts about how I was kind of worthless. Like, man, you make these promises about how you're going to eat healthy and just look at you, just like a shame spiral. It was very mean. My inner critic was very mean. And we all have this inner critic. It's that hidden voice that is kind of scary that we need to shine a light on and get very clear about. So write it down or reflect on it. What emotion came up when you broke the promise? And what was being said? What did you start to think about yourself? What words were your inner critic saying about yourself? Now I want you to think about this. Those emotions and the words your inner critic is saying, is it helpful? Is it making you feel more connected to yourself? Or is it making you feel more pressure to be a certain way? For me, my shame and that inner critic kind of sounds like a bully. And when you start operating from that place, even if, for example, in my story, I was able to lose weight because I shamed myself enough. The problem with that is I stopped trusting myself. In fact, the only thing I could trust was that shame would make sure I stayed within my calorie count. That's why I gained it all back. So, underneath those broken promises, what you might find is that you have less trust in yourself. This is what we are trying to shift. When you break a promise, how can I still trust myself and give myself some grace so that I can set myself up for success in the future? Because if every time you break a promise, you trust yourself less, how likely do you think it is for you to keep your promise next time? Not very. The next time you promise yourself after you've lost some trust in yourself, you will probably tell yourself, yeah, we didn't do that last time either. This is where the check-in comes in. You break a promise, find out what's happening underneath it. What emotions are coming up? What's your inner critic saying? And here's the secret sauce. Because if you keep breaking your promises, this is the uncertainty that we're trying to thrive in this season 2. And this is how you switch it. When you make the next promise to yourself, whatever it's about, and you notice you feel a little uncertain that you'll hit it, this is where you can insert a voice that says, I know in the past I didn't do it, but I trust that I'm going to do my best this time. Let's see how it goes. Try it. Really try it. You're trying to insert some compassion here. That's the only way that you will be able to drop that shame, that self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, and embracing what makes you who you are. We're trying to insert a new program here because the shame isn't working, okay? It's not working. And I want to share one more lyrical line from Shadow. You don't have to do this alone.
You don't have to do this alone. No, no, no.
This song is about inviting yourself to look at the shadows and sit with the shadows within. And this podcast, I hope, is a place where you feel like I kind of poke at some of your hidden parts so that way you will spend a little time during your week to open up some of those shadowy hidden parts. Because I've learned firsthand how important it is to do this. This is what calibrates you so you have a strong foundation. You're being radically honest with yourself. So the next time you break a promise to yourself, because we're human, we do it, we all do it. Don't just brush it under the rug. I want you to at least sit with it and make sure there's no shame bubbling up. And if there is some shame that starts to, recognize it, say, I see you, and I trust myself to try it again next time. Don't let it get out of hand. I did, and it doesn't feel great. If you enjoyed this episode, please share this with someone you think might also get some use out of these conversations. And if something came up for you in this episode, please email me at kelsey@kelseymiles.com. Also, I'd love to hear your story. Put it in the comments below. Maybe something you've gone through where you broke promises to yourself and figured out a way to trust yourself again. Maybe it will help someone else. I'd love if you shared it. If you'd like to listen to my song Shadow, I've put it in the show notes below. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to Authenticity Lab. This month, we're focusing on our hidden parts. This is a very important part of calibrating to our authentic self so that we can do more life experiments and keep expanding and growing. I'll be back next week with a new life story to inspire you to live boldly, lead a life of curiosity, so you can keep being your most amazing, authentic self.
Yeah, that house will always call you.